Hey everyone, I hope you're having a great week. Today we will be continuing our study on the seven deadly sins, and this time we will go into greed. Now, when we think of greed, we think of money, wanting more and more money. And a lot of times, when the Bible talks about greed, it talks about money, such as 1 Timothy 6, chapter 6, verse 10. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. Now, when we think about greed, we do think about money a lot of times, and that's because money is a very alluring thing. Now, money itself is not evil. Just having money, it is not an evil thing. In fact, you can do a lot of good with money. But a lot of times, when people want money, they do immoral and sometimes illegal things. One example of this is the gaming industry, and in recent years, it has put gambling mechanics into its game. Some of these have been aimed at children. And there have been instances where these children have gotten a hold of their parents' credit cards and racked up thousands of dollars in debt. Because you see, these gambling mechanics, how they work is they buy in-game currency, and then they use that currency on a chance to get something good. And oftentimes their chances are so low that the person, namely the kid in a lot of these instances, want to spend more and more, and they rack up money. Of course, adults do this too, but kids are especially vulnerable to this. And such is greed. You want more and more, and this is what's causing a lot of game developers to go beyond just selling their games and putting out various, expansions and stuff like that, to resort to various tactics such as gambling. Because greed can make you do a lot of corrupt things, and this is why it's bad. This is why it's a sin, because it can corrupt people to the extent where it blinds them, and in the case of Christians, can make them leave the faith in pursuit of monetary gain. Another thing is, when you have so much of something, you tend to depend on it. You tend to depend on it more than God. You see, greed isn't just limited to money. You can be greedy about anything. You don't have to be rich to be greedy. A poor person can be greedy. It's just greedy in something else other than money. It's when you have something that you love so much, you desire more, and you will often do things that you normally wouldn't do to get more of this. This is bad because, well, for one thing, it can often result in hurting other people. Basically, cheating other people, taking something away from other people that they need to survive. And money is more of an example to this than anything. Money can get you places. Money can get you into positions of power, and you want that power sometimes. Even though your intentions might originally have been pure or not evil, things such as money can corrupt. That's why Jesus says, "Blessed are you who are poor. Blessed are the poor, for they will be rich. Blessed are you who are hungry, for you shall be satisfied. Woe to you who are rich, for you have received your comfort." Now, being rich isn't a sin. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You can have a lot of money and help a lot of people. But money can be so enticing, and anything that you crave too much of that's really enticing to you and you want more and more of it can be destructive. It can consume you, and that's a focal point in a lot of these sins in this series. Is a lot of them are consuming, and greed is no different than this. It consumes you. You want more of it. You want to take it, and in terms of money, you want to spend it on lavish things, and a lot of rich people tend to live lavish lifestyles, and some of them, as a consequence, they basically oppress the poor. Rich people in high positions of power, they do this all the time. But you see, Jesus, he was all about giving to the poor. He was the opposite. When the rich young ruler, when he told him one thing he still lacked, he said, give all your possessions to the poor, then you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. And if we look at the example of Zacchaeus, he gave half of what he owned to the poor. And one thing I believe, the less you have here on earth, the more you will have in heaven. Now, I'm not saying go out, sell everything, give it to the poor. But what we should do as Christians is be more generous. We should give to others as they need and help others in any way we can. And by doing this, we will have treasure in heaven. But sometimes when you have greed and you learn to depend on these things, it can consume you to the point where you want basically this to be your God instead of God himself, even if you don't realize it. This becomes a form of idolatry because you learn to depend on this. In my opinion, it is better to have little than to have much, because when you have much, you don't think you have any need for God, for you have security. Now, like I said, it's not a sin just to have an abundance. But having this abundance and wanting more of it can lead to a very destructive nature. And that's why greed is a sin. It can lead to very destructive behaviors and oppression of others. And Jesus knew this. He knew, of course, he knows everything. Jesus knows everything. But he knew that how destructive, especially money, can be to people's lives, how they depend on it, how it can get them power, and the destruction it can cause. So, in conclusion, I leave you with this. In your life, do not go after monetary gain. Do not pursue material possessions in your life. Instead, you need to trust in God and help others if you can when it arises. Because in the early church it said everyone gave to those who had a need. No one claimed that their possessions were their own. And Ananias and Sapphira, they got greedy and basically lied to the Holy Spirit, and God took their lives. So don't let greed overtake you. Don't let the allure of wealth consume you. For things like this can only lead to your destruction. Anyway, join me next time as we discuss gluttony. And does gluttony go beyond just the indulgence of food? Join me next time as we discuss this. I hope everyone has a good and safe week, and I will see you next time. God bless.